I need
Okay. I ain't got a lick of sleep. So tired. All right. So, good morning, good morning, good morning. I want to thank you so much for this opportunity to do this interview with you regarding leadership. This will be for my interpersonal skills class, and my professor is Dr. Perry. So we will go ahead and get started. So my first question to you is, what is your title?
I am an assistant county manager in New Hanover County.
And how long have you been in this position?
Going on 3 years.
Okay. And how did you get started in this field?
So for most of my career, I've led nonprofit organizations.
Mhm.
And then the last nonprofit I worked for, I worked directly with the school system. So we were in a school. And through that partnership, I ended up going to work for the school district. So that's kind of where education/government started. And from there, I came to the county. So my leadership in nonprofit, a lot of what I did was very similar and translated easily into government. So I've been a nonprofit or a leader manager for many years now. If I had to guess, I would go back to 2004.
Would you say that being in nonprofit, initially being in the nonprofit field was by chance, or was it something that that you intentionally chose to do?
So when I was in college, my original plan was to go into business because I wanted to work on Wall Street. And when I was in college, I volunteered at the Ronald McDonald House. And that's when I decided to change my major. And that's kind of where, for me, I felt like I had to work somewhere where I could be passionate about the work that I did, that I felt like I was helping a cause, and at the same time it being, employment. And that kind of is how nonprofit fulfilled that. Over the years, though, the challenges in working in nonprofit, there are challenges everywhere, but with the recession and a lot of other things, it was really hard when you couldn't raise a certain amount of money to be able to employ your staff and keep them, employed. That was very stressful. And so I wanted to go somewhere where my job and what I did didn't impact people's livelihoods.
Yeah, you touched on a question that I was definitely going to follow up with, is that we all know that not all nonprofits are created equal. And different, depending upon your chosen industry within nonprofit, determines the amount of funding that you will receive, and how passionate some people are or are not about it. Some nonprofits, such as United Way, are able to generate and to get a lot of funding for their agencies, more so because they take a broad stroke approach and able to fund so many different things, where sometimes when you are in a niche nonprofit, so if people don't necessarily have that passion for that thing, it's more challenging to garner funding for that, particular thing. So,
but also a part of that is, United Way and some nonprofits are national and international nonprofits.
right.
So they have resources that a mom and pop, something that was created here, someone created it, started the 501c3, and they're a standalone mom and pop nonprofit organization, it's a lot harder because they don't have the resources. They may not have a grant writer. You, as a director, a lot of times I wore many hats. I was the executive director, I was the fundraiser, sometimes the accountant, they wear a lot of hats, and it can be very challenging for smaller nonprofits.
Most definitely, which definitely I can see the segue into government, because government is more, I would say, not just bipartisan, but it is more general to the aspect. It is for all. It's to meet the needs of all people, opposed to just one segment of the demographic that you're looking at. So I can see the connection between going over to government versus just kind of staying in nonprofit or even going into the public sector. So I definitely understand that. The next question I have for you is, what type of interpersonal or people skills do you believe that you possess?
I believe I have good listening skills. A lot of times employees are, I hate to compare them to your children, but a lot of times people just want to be heard. They may not always get what they want, but when you listen and hear their concerns, I think that goes a very long way. I'll give an example. So my boss, who is Chris Coudray, the county manager, in the pandemic, we started a town hall. So he does a monthly town hall. They're different topics. And staff can either anonymously or they can show their name and ask questions or make comments. And someone made a comment about the HHS building and needing a picnic table outside on the rooftop. There are benches out there right now, but to be able to go outside and eat and have lunch. And so
you say the rooftop? Okay.
Yeah. And so I looked into it. They also wanted to be able to have umbrellas out there too, to protect them from the sun. And so, I looked into it, did the research, contacted our facilities director, had them look into it. And we were able to compromise. So we were able to get them the picnic table, but because it's on the rooftop and we are a community that has hurricanes, putting a traditional umbrella up there, it could fly off with a strong wind, and you have parking lots, it could injure someone's car. So we could not do that because the only other option was to build something onto the building, which would have been very costly. So they got a compromise, but they liked the person who requested it. Speaks to me every day and would thank me almost every day for listening to her and actually getting the bench out there. So a lot of times it's just listening to people and trying to meet their needs, but just letting them know when you can't and why. I think that's a really big quality that I have is, I'm gonna listen even to the angry person, someone that may have some negative feedback. We should be open to hearing constructive criticism. So I'm definitely a strong listener.
Yeah. I would agree with you that listening is very important. I tell people all the time that you need to listen to understand, not listen to respond. Oftentimes when people are in dialogue with one another, they are so busy trying to do the double dutch to jump in and get the point across that they completely are missing the depth of what is being said to them at that time. And which then causes more controversy or misunderstanding because they didn't sit still to hear exactly what it was saying, and then take the time to absorb what it is that is being said. Sometimes you can get your answer already solved if you would just hear. Just truly hear what it is that person, what someone is saying to you. And then also, I think that people get caught up in the tone. There are times that when they're saying it's not what you say, how you say it. There are times that is true, but then there are other times where it doesn't matter how what is being said. The fact is the fact, of what it is. And sometimes people get so caught up in the emotion that's attached to what is being said that they miss the facts. And I like to give the example of if I was in a relationship with someone and I decided that the relationship was over, it wouldn't matter if I said it very harshly or if I said it very softly. The fact is, the relationship is over. So sometimes people are like, well, you shouldn't have said it like this, or you shouldn't have said it like that. It wouldn't matter. Deal with it. The fact is, it's done. You're not going to feel any better either way. If someone is letting you go, and terminating your position, they can be as soft as they want when they say it, or they can be as harsh. At the end of the day, you're still terminated, right? And so that's their takeaway, is that they're terminated. So yes, there are times where we do have to be careful with how we say, and we do need to be mindful of tone. Yet at the same time, the fact is the fact, and people just, and I agree with you, people just want to be heard, and people want to be validated. They want what is heard to be acknowledged, and how you move forward after you acknowledge it, that can be discussed, but they want to be heard and they want to be validated. So I definitely 100% agree with that. That's something that I personally have learned in my life. Tell me about your approach to resolving conflicts. How do you incorporate your interpersonal skills to create a solution?
I deal with conflict a lot. A lot.
Yes.
It depends on the type of conflict. Again, I like to listen. For example, right now, New Hanover County Health and Human Services Board adopted a mask mandate. And the health director did an abatement order because they will not meet until Tuesday to fully adopt it, because we allow a 10-day comment period for the public to comment. And so we've been getting calls, we've been getting emails. People have shown up at the commissioners' meetings, and I listen. I listen to them, share their concern. And we've heard concerns on both sides. We've heard concerns of people who say it's an infringement of their rights and they shouldn't have to wear a mask if they don't want to wear a mask. And then you have people who say, everybody should wear a mask so that I'm protected, and that I want to protect others as well. So I listen. We are incorporating those comments and concerns into the hearing. All the board members will receive that information. But then I also educate, because some people will share misinformation. And it's important to make sure that they have the correct information. Because we received something that said that like masks are like only 3% effective, and that is not true. So, I will listen, but then turn around and also provide information and education so that they're aware. So whatever decision is made, for example, with the mask mandate, that we aren't making this decision on a whim. It is based on hospitalizations, our infection rate, the Delta variant, with other variants coming behind it.
Mhm.
This is all based on facts and data. We're not doing it just because it's something we think should be done.
With that understanding, what about when you have to deal with direct report conflict?
Okay. And I've had to deal with that too. So I've had to deal with direct reports that
How many people report to you, if you don't mind?
I have 4 direct reports.
Mhm.
But it's over 5 different departments in the county, which probably employee-wise, I probably have the most employees total, including those under my direct reports, than any of the other county managers. But so 4.
Mhm. And up under this, so you're probably looking at in terms of employee numbers, maybe about 400 or 500.
No, probably closer to 6 or 7.
Okay, 6 or 7 under the 4 that
Mhm.
report to you. Okay.
Correct.
So are the and back to our question about how do you deal with direct report conflicts? And secondly, second part of that, are the employees that they serve, are they able to reach to you or contact you or speak to you if they have a problem with their direct report?
Okay, so I guess one example, so I had a direct report that in some ways was kind of going around me, but they were new. And so, I have one-on-one meetings with my direct reports. And I'm not afraid to address conflict, address it head on, and set expectations. So when that person started their first day, well, they had the county orientation, and the next day was their first day actually here. And so I had expectations. I had a meeting with her as soon as she got here. And so as I saw some of that, in our one-on-ones, we talked about it. And I set expectations for the future, and that has worked out well.
Mhm.
So that hasn't been something that continued. That was something that was able to be resolved. Now, I've had conflicts between staff that, have had to go, had to be elevated to actual verbal or written warnings, and I've had to terminate. I believe I am not a micromanager, but I believe you set expectations and boundaries. And when people cannot meet those, and you regularly meet with them, you regularly counsel and coach them, and they don't meet those expectations, then you have to hold them accountable. As far as my direct reports, and even on down to, entry level staff here at HHS, we tell all our new hires, we have orientation, and early on in that orientation in the morning, myself, the other assistant county manager, and the deputy county manager go in, and we speak with all the new hires. And one of the things that we always share is that we have an open door policy. So they can email me, they can call me, they can chat me, they can come to my office. And I have had people do that. And I have had people bring concerns, and I've had to address those concerns. I do believe that there is a chain of command, but I also believe that sometimes there are people who, for some reasons or whatever reason, feel uncomfortable going to their direct report. And we should always be open. In fact, if you're a good supervisor, you should not be concerned about, they shouldn't be concerned about a staff member coming in my office. Because you done what you need to do as a supervisor with that employee. And so them coming in here should never be an issue, but sometimes it is.
Mhm. Yeah, I appreciate that. I think that sometimes you are correct. I think in all cases, we should do our best to follow a chain of command when appropriate. Yet at the same time, there are circumstances and time situations where um, it is best to circumvent the person that you are, that is your direct report or your supervisor, so you can speak to someone else. Either it's for personality conflict, or maybe you might be fear of retaliation, or
Mhm.
whatever the case may be. It's, you should have the opportunity and be an environmental setting that allows you and affords you the opportunity to go around that if need be. Not saying that you need to take advantage of doing that on a regular basis, because we all do know that people tend to abuse power and
Mhm.
abuse connection. So once they kind of get in, they're like, oh, because you gave an ear one time, they think they have the opportunity to have an ear on
Mhm.
multiple occasions,
Mhm.
when just realizing that was an isolated situation. So I definitely can understand what you're saying with that. Um, how would the individuals that you supervise describe you?
That's a good question. So, I have a team meeting with my we're the human services team. So my departments are human service departments. So um at we had evaluations, they were due mid July. And
Mhm.
so we've completed that process. But in every one-on-one meeting that I have with them every month, I always ask, what is it that I can do for them? And how can I make their job better?
Mhm.
And is there something that I could do better? So I always seek that as a leader, because there could be something that I'm doing or not doing that I'm not aware of.
Mhm.
And so I'm always constantly asking for that feedback. And so we actually had a little session in one of our meetings, which I still have the post-it notes up on my wall from that meeting. And I, sometimes you wonder, whether they're giving you really constructive feedback, or, they may be afraid because you're their boss or whatever. So as a county, we have been talking about 360 evaluations, and how, our direct reports and others, not just our direct reports, because, um, how we interact with different departments for different things and reasons. And so how do their department as a whole, or our community partners, we have community partners as well, so I would I would think that they felt that I was a good support and
Mhm.
advocate for them, because
Mhm.
I've had to, for one of my departments, I had to advocate to get additional staff, and they were able to get it.
Mhm.
Um, for one department, I've had to support her because it's been extremely difficult right now with the pandemic. And so she has a difficult job. And so when I see her getting stressed, I'll say, like, hey, what can I take off your load? How can I help you? So I think that they would say I was an advocate, a supporter, a helper. And then I'll advise too. I think they would consider me a good advisor,
Mhm.
because one of them is new to the job and new to the community. And so she doesn't really know or have the relationships. And so I can say, hey, you might want to approach this way, or you might want to approach this that way. Or even with our county manager, getting to know him, I can, steer them in the right direction with communicating or sharing something with him, or requesting something from him. So I think that's what I think they would say is a supporter, advocate, and advisor.
with that understanding, do you feel that there's an area that you would like to improve in?
Are you talking about interpersonal skills or just more knowledge? Because
Specifically in terms of interpersonal skills.
interpersonal, probably sometimes, not often, but sometimes my patience. But I have really good direct reports, so it doesn't happen often. But I'm just, if I have standard meet, like I said, every month I have a regular meeting. I'm in and out of my departments. They see me frequently. There's regular email. We have Teams meetings. It's constant. And then we have our human services team meeting. So it's constant communication. And so when something gets missed or an expectation is not, they don't meet an expectation and that hasn't been communicated, I can get a little frustrated by that because, there's so much communication that should have been brought to me
Right.
before it got to where it is.
There were many opportunities for it to
Yeah.
be addressed before it got to the state. I get it. I definitely understand. So our last question is, what feedback would you give someone who desires to be in your field of work regarding interpersonal skills?
I think it's really good to have training.
Mhm.
I am the type of person that's always seeking, training and development. I'm actually getting ready to start a fellowship program at UNC School of Government. And there will be some, interpersonal communications as a part of that. I just think that we should be lifelong learners, and
Mhm.
we're never going to be perfect, but we strive for perfection.
Mhm.
And so that continuous development and improvement is important, no matter how high you get or, how old you get. You really need to hone those interpersonal people skills, because at the end of the day, our work is probably 95% people. So it's important to have those good interpersonal skills.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. Unless you're working in some form of data, it is extremely important to constantly review your communication and interpersonal skills, how you communicate with others, how you communicate with those that are above you, around you, those who are just in public in general. I think that that's a reflection of who you are in general and how you, what you bring to the table. I think your energy matters. And a lot of times, some people go into situations or go into environments and they say, I never get along with anybody. Or, as women, we have heard people say, I don't get along with women. I don't trust women. And I think that when we hear statements such as that, when you say, I don't get along with women, or I don't adjust well in certain environments, I think that begins with you. It doesn't, it's not others. It's not them who's the issue, you're the issue. And as you begin to become more comfortable and confident in who you are, become more comfortable and confident in your voice, you begin to be able to eliminate a lot of those little things and learn how to talk to be a lot better. Learn how to talk to people a lot better. There's a phrase I've seen across social media, and it says, you get to choose how we're going to act today. And I disagree with that. I disagree with allowing someone else the opportunity to choose your behavior and choose your temperament. Michelle Obama made a wonderful statement, and she said that when they go low, we go high. And I've heard people say, when they go low, I go to hell. And I'm like, not so much.
Some national teeth and it's real hot down there. I don't want to
Yeah,
go there.
that's not where I personally would like to travel. And it is a challenge at times, depending upon, where you are in the environment that we're in right now in 2021 with so much going on publicly. It is, even personally, we go into circumstances, go out to eat or go to stores, and we have the quote unquote Karens who are on guard to catch you doing something at any moment. And it can be a challenge in learning how to communicate. But sometimes the best communication is to ignore.
But good interpersonal communication is also developing relationships with people.
That's right.
So my direct reports, I try to get to know them as well. So, if they're married and have children, the age of their children, are they school age, are they in college, getting to know people, my one of my newer direct reports that's not from here, one thing that I did, because I saw her getting stressed, and because I didn't know her well yet, had to find someone who knew her. So I knew some things to do to kind of help her when she gets stressed. So I actually called her husband. So I called her husband. I said, what does she like? Or what should I do when she gets, stressed? And he said, well, she likes chocolate. And he told me some things. And I always have little notes, and I'll write staff a note. I'll send them. In the county, we have high fives, and we also have Stellar Awards. And so, I'll send them a high five when I see them doing something well, or I've heard a staff member, praise something that they did, or a customer. Those relationships are important. And it's important to know when your staff have personal issues going on. I mean, we are humans. People say, well, when I go to work, I'll leave my problems at the door. That's impossible. We are human. We are people. And when you are leading people, you have to keep that in mind. Just because they're employed by you does not mean that they leave their personal life at the door when they come to work.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. You're only as strong as your customer base. And we have to understand that the customer base is the foundation for everything. So if your customer is not happy, everything that goes is not going to be happy. It's going to crumble. So when you understand your customer and when you have relationship with your customer, then that is going to help you as you travel up the ladder. And when you view yourself, also view your employees. I always say, view your employees as a customer. Because at the end of the day, like everybody at some point in time is being served. Whether on your way to work, you stop and get a Starbucks, or you have to go pay a bill, whatever your position is, at some point in time, you are either giving service or receiving service. So you're always a customer. So we
have internal and external customers.
Exactly right. That's exactly right. So learning how to develop relationship and how to communicate within your internal and your external is going to help benefit all involved and help strengthen those bonds. And it also solidifies you and gives them comfortability to say, I can communicate with this person with ease and not feel like I'm a walk away. I can't tell you how many environments that you can probably also speak to that we walk away with trauma from from being employee settings, and when we have to realize that almost 70 to 80% of your day is at an employee setting. Sometimes you spend more time with you at work than you do with your own personal family. And that's sometimes it's just the nature of the job that you have. And when you are in a job where you spend that much time, no one wants to be there stressed. No one wants to be there communicating with people who are toxic or toxic managers or any of that. So interpersonal skills are extremely important. Hold on one second, let me put this on pause. Okay. So I definitely agree with you and what you were saying with that. So this concludes our interview for interpersonal skills. I really want to thank you so much for allowing yourself and availing yourself the opportunity for me to speak with you. I know that your day is extremely busy and your responsibilities are great, but thank you so much.
You're
You
welcome.
mean the world to me.
You mean the world to me too.
So thank you so much. And that's it. That's all that we have. That's all I have for you.
All right.
All right. I will see you in the funny papers, as my grandma would say.
All right.
I'll see
Bye.
you later.